Hello and welcome to Productivity Compass by Zoho Projects. Today, we have a very special guest amongst us. Mr. Sri Srinivasa is the Program Management Lead for Operational Process and Systems at Tesla. This talk is an initiative by our team at Zoho Projects. We have been very lucky to have some of the industry stalwarts share their experiences with the project management community. Zoho is a company that builds SaaS software products for businesses. We are over 20 years old now and have more than 40 products to run sales, marketing, HR, finance, and more. Zoho Projects is our offering for project managers. It is used by customers around the world and in every industry to plan projects, big and small, track their progress, and collaborate with teams. We also have focused capabilities for agile teams. To introduce our speaker, Mr. Srinivasa is a recent graduate from Harvard Business Analytics program. He holds PMP certification from Project Management Institute. He is certified in governance of enterprise IT from Information Systems Audit Control Association and is also certified Information Systems Auditor for Audit, Information Security, and Compliance. Mr. Srinivasa comes with over 20 years of experience leading and managing medium to large-scale IT applications engineering, enterprise software applications, audit, information security and compliance, digital product solutions across technology platforms. His key focus areas include global operational readiness and standardizing best practices across teams. He has handled multiple project portfolios to help meet business objectives and advance top-level goals and organizational strategy. He's also a public speaker, coach, and mentor. He guides startup companies and non-profit companies on process, project, and program framework in the capacity as a board member and core management group. Talking about his hobbies and interests, he has produced shows at Stanford University College Radio for the past 11 years. His channel, itsdiff, has a spree of talks on leadership. He's also a vocal artist and humorist. He has been supporting and providing PM work for local non-profit organizations. Before we start, I have a few points to make. The session will last for about 40 minutes, which will be followed by question and answers. You can post your questions in the live chat section. The speaker will answer them after his talk. In case of audio or video issues, please use the link zoho.to/projectslive to reconnect to the live stream. For more updates and future webinars, please follow us at Zoho Projects. Mr. Srinivasa, the forum is now all yours.
Thank you very much, Gauranga, and the Zoho team. And it's a great pleasure and honor to be here, and especially in this unprecedented tough times with the epidemic. And there are lots of opportunities available for all of us to connect virtually and we learn something new or share our experience from what we have learned. Life is a journey, and there's always ups and downs. So and we learn every day, and we learn, we care, and we share. So thanks for giving me an opportunity, and it's a pleasure to be with you all. And thanks for all the audience who have given their valuable time to our program today. So thank you. So just wanted to read a little disclaimer here. The content that we are going to see is from my experience that I've learned from great leaders and great projects. And any references that we mention, it's quoted elsewhere here in the slide deck, and also from experience from my present and other employments where all over the globe, where I was very fortunate to help support the companies. But they don't. But again, these are my views from my experience, and it doesn't bind my current or past employers. I just wanted to call that out. And of course, this is mainly meant for educational awareness, training, and to encourage discussion among our learning community of project managers, and cannot be used for any commercial or business benefits. I just wanted to read that out as you see here. What we are going to do today in the next 40 minutes or so is just a general overview of project management. The main thing here is to just set the right stage and get some terminologies clarified, and see a brief project life cycle, a sample framework, which is pretty much on the basis of PMI, well-known world institute, Project Management Institute, PMI.org. I really credit them for all my learnings. And also the other organization is ISACA, ISACA.org. And there are lots of process and technology and how it's usage and things like that. So I would quote necessarily where appropriate. And what do you expect from a project manager? And what is that person whose role here? They've got a definitive role to play in bringing a lot of people together. So what is expected? Then what are the critical success factors that will really help a project to succeed? We learn every day. We look for failures. We fix them. And some which we could not fix, we just try to see how else can we collaborate to fix. So let's just talk through that. And what are the tool sets that are available to us? How can we leverage some of the tools, right? The next one is tips for leading projects effectively. This is more like I would say a summary, which gives an example of in the project life cycle on how we can do certain things. Again, project management is an ocean. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of knowledge areas, there are a lot of processes and stuff. To put everything into the 35 minutes here is difficult, but I'll try to do justice with some of my learnings and see what I was looking for, what I learned, etc. So it's again to learn, care, and share. So let's go to general, the next slide, please. Overview of project management. It's an application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. So the key things, as you see, there's a definition from the PMI.org. And if you look at this, the requirements is what one has to really pay attention to. In short example, you can say, what problem are we solving? Who is our stakeholder? Who are all the people have to come together to accomplish an objective, to meet the requirements, right? And how do we really get to the process from start to finish, right? So if you see, look at the next bullet there. Project management, it includes the process groups as defined by PMI, is initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling and closing. There are a lot of key things involved. Sometimes you get an opportunity to start from the beginning of a project. Sometimes I've seen the dynamism and say, there is a problem, the project is already underway, it's not going anywhere. You just have to go and find out what's happening, what has not happened, how you are going to just go and solve the problem. So there are always lots of things, a lot of variations that could happen here. So the first thing I would say from a project management perspective is to understand the context, understand their own purpose, collaborate, communicate, be organized. So a lot of things I would see, a couple of keywords as we move through the presentation. And of course, one thing we need to understand the project is it's unique and it's temporary. That's interesting. Why you say project is temporary? Because there's not a project that you always say that, oh, it runs for months and years and a decade. It's not like that. A project has got a definitive goals. You have some requirements and then you face the projects. PHASC, right? And also you just say have a start date and end date, and you start the next phase, start date and end date, and then you learn from the previous phase. You just correct yourself. It's something you would see as a retrospective, as we do in agile methodology, right? After every sprint, you say, what did we do well? What we didn't do well? How can we change? Is there a problem with the skill? Is there a problem with our, the various constraints of a project, right? So in first place, we need to understand we have to meet the requirements. To meet the requirements, there is a process. Everything is around process. So what PMI recommends generally is the process groups as you see here. Let's go to the next slide, please. So as part of the terminology briefing, you can see here on the left, the product portfolio, program, and project management. I just wanted to talk through a few points here. Let's start reading from the left top. Generally, you see always people think about the product is like there is always a requirement. There's a market need. There is something we need to increase our market share. There is a roadmap of this product that is being planned. which will result in a feature and functionality and things like that. Of course, who is the main driver? The customer, the competition, the regulatory, right, and security, whatnot. So it might result in, of course, it's a hardware product or a software product, or of course these days everybody's on mobile. As an example for a software application, it could be an enterprise-wide system, or it would be an individual. It could be like a B2C application. It could be a device that could help streaming or the application or media, whatnot. So there's a product, a very specific, which has got a definitive goal to feature after feature. There is some people you would have heard, minimal viable product that needs to be launched at a particular time, and then you enhance the product, you learn from the industry, look at the customer, they give some feedback, look at the competitors, and then you try to get to know how can we innovate, how can I digitally transform my company to get ahead of the competition, how can I be efficient, all kinds of things. You will just focus on the product side of the equation. Then if you look at the portfolio is, it's everything is a project, you can say, but again, a product that is to be launched is managed through a project manager. I'm trying to bring the relationship here that it will be good to understand. So then what happens is, right, you see the competitiveness, the revenue enhancer, then the legal regulatory stuff. You are doing some projects for cost reduction, for efficiency gain, meaning what I can do in 30 minutes, I wanted to do it in 15 minutes. So if say for example, if you are buying some products, now everybody is going online for purchasing everything, especially in this current situation of this epidemic in COVID-19. So if you look at people are trying to say, okay, you can order on the web and things like that. You don't have 20 clicks to get to purchase and complete the order. Can I do this in 5 clicks? Show a catalog, give them a package where they can just quickly go and check. It could be a bundled product, whatnot. And then you just have to pay, and you just put your address and stuff like that and hit done, or you are going to go and pick it up on the store, on the curbside pickup, whatnot. Look at the number of clicks there versus you just go through like about 300 product lines and you try to sort through and things like that. So a person has to always look at efficiency, minimize the number of clicks. It's all driven by the customer and the innovation and how to be efficient, etc. So this becomes portfolio. So if you look at to your right here, given some examples on a finance portfolio and a sales portfolio, means these are all right. Portfolios are vertical, where you can see there are programs which consist of projects, and each project has got some deliverables. And the end of it, you start and you finish. So that you should understand the relationship, because finance, sales, marketing, engineering, supply chain, order operations, for that matter, you have marketing, you have communications. There's a lot of individual verticals will have their portfolio, and they all have their budget in terms of getting some projects to be executed. There is some budget allocation in organization. So we need to understand that. But again, the question here is, it depends on the level of the project manager also. Like sometimes, you are given and say, go and execute it. Sometimes you are in a situation where you will be able to contribute to the portfolio. In some cases, you are in a C-suite executive who's just looking at what projects or programs or portfolio that we need to allocate the funds. So that's kind of, so what we are going to do in the next couple of minutes is, there are two angles. One is the strategic angle, another one is the operational angle. So let's focus on the operational angle of these projects, how to drive and lead projects effectively. All right. So of course, in every portfolio or the program, you can see it's satisfy the business requirements is our main goal, our motto, right? So as you see, programs and projects it's basically they're intertwined. There are a lot of related projects formed together to form a program, which is the key thing to meet the company's goals and objectives. Ultimately, we need alignment to the company's goals and objectives. So first thing is, as an executive's responsibility is to get the mission statement, get the goals and objectives, trickle down to the manager and below, right? And as a project manager, our goal is to understand not only just what problems are we solving and how is it aligned and meeting the goals and objectives of the company. There's always like there's a company's milestone which we are targeting for and delivering value. So that's the main thing. All right. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide, please. The project life cycle, which is yeah. So are we good there? Project life cycle is sample framework. Yes. So in this case, let's just look at the central the diagram there, which is you initiate, you plan, you develop and build, execute, monitor, and support. I mean, this is just like a broader, can say phases that's kind of fitting the PMI framework, but it's just my way of doing this to keep it simple. So there is always you initiate something, then you plan, then you start designing, and then you just start building and execute, monitor, and support. So let's look at I'll peel the onion for you. On the right side, you see plan and prioritize. First of all, that is very important because there are like hundreds of requirements. Now you need to also plan what is the minimal viable product that will get the biggest bang for the buck. So the challenge here for most of us is if you say the project is going to take 8 months and 12 months and 6 months, yeah, that's what it takes. But if you want to be competitive, if you have some regulatory conditions that you have to meet, if you think that you have the information security, data privacy, or anything for that matter that needs to be met now, there's no time for waiting 6 months, 8 months like that. And in this competitive world, we are all racing to the occasion, right? So what we have to do is prioritize and then understand, make sure that we have got, there is a process alignment, there is a systems alignment, we have the capacity to deliver, right? And we have to understand the dependencies between the various tasks that that contributes to the deliverable. It aligns with the product roadmap. So what we do is we will just understand the various tasks, understand the dependencies, do some kind of an estimation, and then create a minimal viable product kind of a situation where it say, what can I deliver in 3 weeks? What can I deliver in 6 weeks? So that way you work towards shaping up the requirements design more like an agile way or a hybrid way of doing things, and then get to the deliverable of this product in a quick with a quick turnaround. That way people see value, of course, with great quality. That is very important at every phase of the project. Quality is the mantra. And then of course you will perform risk assessment. So if you kind of make sure you assess your capacity, you assess the requirements, you did some estimation, you did some process system alignment, and you see how it is aligned with the roadmap, because you can't just go and get a requirement which is not in your roadmap, right? Yeah. So I'm just giving it at a high level. Every one of them can really warrants a session on its own. Then let's move on to the right here. As you see, the build, test, validate, and these are all okay. Once when okay, fine, we all agreed, everybody, we got the right skill resources. We put a high-level project timeline and with milestones established and everything. Okay, let's start build. Of course, one of the things is what are the use cases? What are the test scenarios? We are going to do it in an iterative process. That means you build, test, validate, build, test, validate. Like sounds very familiar. It's like agile, right? And then of course you always need to have a status check at every point of time. I always say you ought to keep an elevator pitch ready. Hey, how is the project going? Yeah, no, you just say the project is, we have accomplished 3 milestones. We are targeting the next milestone. We are having an issue. We reached out to somebody. Maybe you could help us. That's the kind of that thing. If assuming you're meeting an executive and he's asking this question, and say, always the executives always ask you, what can I do for you? What do you need from me? I'm the sponsor of this program or project, and I just wanted to know where you are. Then the next, that means, what does it mean? They're questioning you. They're asking, how can I help you? So you need to always, as a project manager, you need to have those data points at all times with you. It's not that 20 things that you know. It is the thing that you know to get some help to get the project moving and get some resources reassigned, get some additional support to get the project executed, because your head is in the line, right? So it's such a very enviable situation, I would say. All right. So when you do the development and stuff, one of the things which is often forgotten, which I would like to again high level, is you need to talk about how are we going to do the releases. Are we going to have a weekly release? Are we going to have a monthly release or a bi-weekly release? Plan this. Work with the release engineers if it is an IT system project, and everybody should be aligned there. Okay, I'll talk more in a couple of slides there. Support planning is, of course, this is one thing which is often forgotten. You know, who is going to support post release of this project? Is there a customer support team? If you're handling customers, then customers will be calling in. Who's going to handle them? What is the level 1 support, level 2 support? Everything needs to be planned right this stage. And you'll see some stars on top here. They're all which you can see like the legend. It's the audit and compliance and information security. We need to engage those teams as well to see if there is any financial data or report that is going to be an outcome of this project, where a company's decision is going to be made. Being a public company, we are obligated to make sure we are compliant from a SOX perspective as well. And at the same time, information security is very important as to how secure is your website, how resilient is your website, right? How much of data is being protected? What data are you collecting? That itself is a separate topic to discuss, but at least what I would like to tell them, it's not an afterthought. Most of the time, the data security, information security, compliance is an afterthought. So I would suggest that as a part of the process, we should have it there. That's why there is a star there to just to highlight that. Okay, let's go. Keep moving on from the execute to the readiness review. Keep in the same slide, please. On the readiness review, product deployment, go live support, more monitor. Means monitoring is very important to see how do you know that this project has been successfully delivered. What is the who's accepting that project? So it's very important to know the user acceptance. Post project is also matters. Just go survey it, talk to the field, understand what's happened, what is not happening. Because there are a lot of times you design something, you execute something, and you call the project is done. No. What will be more helpful is go to the field, talk to the customer, internal or external customer, understand, are they using the project, the developed software application or the implemented process for that matter? Are they using the manner it was? Because there's always gaps in the communication and stuff. So you got to make sure that you do a good job of doing some field analysis, right? And some people they do pilot also. They'll do it in a phased implementation for a subset of the teams to see and learn before they really go full blown. And especially when you're global, when you're implementing something, you got to be very careful there. So the last one on this slide, you see the retrospective. Then what is the measure success against the ROI? Return on investment is, you said that I'm going to increase my productivity by 30%. I'm going to reduce cost by 25%. Okay. So how do you measure? You come up with those stats and you tell your sponsor about this is how my ROI of this project, and that's the need for doing this project. You do all this pitching and everything during the the first strategic angle before to get the project approved. But then when after the project, we have to go and learn, are we doing this? If not, what do we need to do? Why? Is it a failure? So you know what? Always look for that angle to learn from the previous project. All right. And of course, you are in a maintenance mode. Of course, you'll have to do a lot of patches. You'll have to maintain and make sure there'll be some things missing here and there. People will get new ideas when they start using it. You need to make sure there is adoption. The user adoption is the best thing that you can expect. So for all the efforts as a team, that a project manager, the product manager, business analyst, the developer, engineering, QA, test, business stakeholder, everybody put together in front of the customer to look good for the company perspective, the adoption will really get the company from point A to point B. in terms of being a competitor in this competitive world. Let's go to the next slide, please. So expectations from a project manager, as you have seen in various places, you need the right attitude, you need to be a relationship builder, you need to be self-organized. That's very important. And you need to have a good documentation skills. That doesn't mean you need to replace a technical writer. You can always engage a technical writer to get the technical documentation. But just the basic things that is required from a project manager is, do you have all the tasks aligned? You understand the dependencies. You have the business requirements documented. You have a status reporting to talk about what did I do? What is coming up next? What are the risks? What are the blockers? Are you organized? Do you have the project sign off at various stages? You need to do all that. And I always tell my project team, you need to understand the business context. Understand the business context. See, there's always some attitude where you give me a project, when is it to be delivered, then I'll take care of it. Thank you. That's good. That's a good attitude. At the same time, if you understand why are we doing this, and it will really help, and who needs to do what, the reason is it will help to go and unblock somebody, because at the end of the day, project managers are in a very enviable situation. Also, you're a great facilitator, a great communicator who establishes accountability against various people. So if something is not happening, you need to just escalate. Escalation is good in this case. It's not just telling bad about something. You are the person who brings in the visibility, red, green, yellow. Don't feel bad about calling it as red. When you say call it as red, what are you recommending, right? Let's go to the next slide, please. So just quickly, you all know this, you're all experienced people. So you see, there's always, we work on this triple constraints. You see scope, schedule, cost, right? Always, if the scope is not controlled, if it is not properly planned, then you are not able to predict the timeline in which this project needs to be delivered, right? Sometimes you are not given the opportunity and then say, here are these 100 requirements. Can you tell me when this project can be completed? More often you see in this competitiveness, a date is fixed already. You agree? I see you guys nodding your head. And then you work backwards to see if I need to deliver to match with my company milestone, then when am I to do the pilot? When am I to deploy? When am I to test? When am I to do what? In terms of the various phases of this project, right? So you got to be careful with knowing the scope very well. Then the next one, of course, cost. Again, nobody has got a open wallet and then say, okay, just take as much it wants to just go and develop something. Some of the startup companies, if you can see, they're all work in a very, very stringent budget because they don't have that much of money. Otherwise, they'll have to go to another venture capitalist and then ask them to cough up more money. Okay, and we are not, everybody is like in the Fortune 500 or 100 companies where they have money, because they always have some money dedicated to exploit what the company is doing right now to increase customer satisfaction, do operational excellence, etc. And they'll have allocate some fund for R&D to explore what new opportunity that's lying outside. So it's always between exploit and explore the conflict. But not everybody is at that luxury to do that. So you got to be very sensitive about, running things efficiency, minimizing wastage. So you need to have the right resource. First of all, you need to have the capacity fully utilized, whether it is the resources. Resources does not mean it is just human resources. It's also the infrastructure resources, the resilient hardware that you need to run this, right? And of course, as a critical success factor, you need to also have a very good engagement, cross-functional teams. You need everybody. You need see, that's what ISACA in their educational stuff. They always say it's always in governance and enterprise IT. It's not IT at the end of the day. It's a business and IT together forming a core team. That kind of a tight, well-knit a team you need. I always say in my engagements, we need great business partners with information technology. I've worked in both places. All right. And of course, communication is super important. If something is not working, something is working. Keep everybody, abridged with what's happening. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, let's get to the meat. Project management tool sets. First and foremost is project charter. Without going into much details, I'll just give you project charter, the Gantt chart, which you can see on the bottom of the screen, then the work breakdown structure, which is where basically you take the bigger chunks of deliverable into what does it take to get to that deliverable, and so that way you can assign the task to individual. And then project status is super important. Risk and issue log, you need to see what is the issue, what is the severity of the issue, what is the risk, is it a known risk, is it something which you can mitigate, or you can transfer the risk to someone, or sometimes people are always they're fearful about the risk of not knowing what that it is a risk. And of course, you need to have a RACI chart, which is, as you see here, who is responsible, who is accountable, who is consulted, and who is informed. Okay, so that is super important. And of course, minutes of the meeting means just a document with action items. Every meeting is super important. Get somebody in consulting that I've seen, where there's always a person who is taking care of, okay, what is the end of at the end of the meeting, what are the action items, who is supposed to do what. We need to go with a clear agenda. You need to come out with key work takeaways from this. And of course, we need to do ROI analysis. Now, I just wanted to focus your attention to the right side where you can see the project charter. See, if nobody is got that, when you're put in a project, you say, do you have a charter? What is a charter? It just tells you what problem are we solving, who are the stakeholders, when are we expected to deliver, what are my key assumptions, all right, which is you can see who is going to accept it, you can see, right? What is the exit criteria? Means we need to know when you think the project is success, right? And then who is the sponsor? Because that way, if we wanted to ask for more money because the project there is a cost to overrun because some unprecedented things happened where you have to spend more money, we need to abridge them. So in that case, you need to have, this is my charter, just a one-page document. Everybody should have. I would self-write it and say, this is the problem I'm solving, this is the customer, this is my assumptions. That itself is a separate topic. You need to validate your assumptions, because you assume getting into a project of doing something, you assume that it's going to take this much, you assume that somebody is going to help you, dependent like a vendor, customer, or other teams. Sometimes, due to their priority list, a project it's always not dedicated. Not all the folks are reporting to the project manager. It's a matrix organization in some cases. So they work in finance, they work in sales, they work in other department, but to come and help you. So what happens, due to the priority shifting, they will not be able to help you when they have other priorities that coming in their way. So you have to go and reset things like that. So they were allocating 30% of their time to support your project, but that become 5%. So you got to really make sure what are the assumptions that you're making, how many resources you need, and how long you're going to take. Everything needs to be documented and monitored very well. Okay. Again, I'm just giving a high level. We can talk. Everything is a topic on its own to see how to really excel in such areas. But at least this will give you an idea. Again, right? Let's go to an example. This is something I like. Let's go to the next slide, please, which is example project marketing campaign management. Sounds very simple, huh? I'm going to spend 5 minutes on this. Okay, where do you start reading? Okay, I just put it, the color coding there on the left. You can see where the various the faces are given there in this case, right? So okay, let's understand the problem. What are we doing? I'm telling the customer, expect a new product that we are going to launch, and I'm sending an email to the customer about getting them excited about that. Or I'm telling them like, we have already launched the product, here is how you can place an order. Okay. Or you're saying we are doing a marketing event, and if you wanted to just come and experience the product, you can come and do it, for example, right? So it's such a simple thing, but you'll be really amazed in this example. You see, you need to understand who's the target audience, because there's like about millions of people. hundreds and thousands of people. Who's your target audiences, your focus group? I mean, they will give you as a project manager should just know this, because to help steer the project, and what tools are we going to use to get this data, and then who are you going to collaborate, what's the time, when are you going to execute it, what is the messaging requirement, because these are all will give you who are the dependent players to make this project successful. How are you going to monitor that we are successful? And then of course you will engage the folks who will be designing the email, and then to review and prep all of this. Then there is always a tool you use to get this campaign executed, and sometimes it could be a a Salesforce tool, it could be a homegrown tool, it could be any third-party tools for whatnot, right? A campaign management tool. And then you have to got it tested and vetted out. Here is the fun part. That's it, my campaign is done and executed? No. Look at the email that goes to the customer. Then what do you expect the call to action from a customer standpoint? The customer, what they open, so you need to see if the customer opened or not, so that's a tracking. The customer clicked or not, that's tracking again. What do you want the customer to do? That's a call to action. Do you want them to go to our website and buy something or sign up for something? Now here is the fun part. Is your website resilient enough to handle such volume of calls that comes to you? You know what I mean? So that is very important, to let the web team involved and then say, we are going to do this campaign and we are going to put the link for people to sign up in a form. Is the form ready? Is the graphics ready? Is the content ready? Is it legally vetted? All kinds of things need to be done, right? See, that's a huge dependency. Second thing is, then if the people have you need to test it, the scalability of the website too, right? At the same time, you need to inform when the campaign is going to be launched, how many people we are sending it. So you look at some past experience to see what is the percentage of clicks and things like that. That will be, you'll be able to gauge from the metrics to plan this. And the next part is, right, you need to make sure that the data analytics team is putting the right tracking code on the website to see to track all of this, correct? So it's such a simple thing. Now move to the you can see the right here, software engineering. If it's an example, it's a website, there's a content management, there is a campaign software, there is the data source. You need to engage the database team, infrastructure team, then the analytics team, the intelligence team. Such a simple thing, and then say send an email to potentials and customers to just get them excited on a new product. And then what? You just start tracking, and then you see how this cross-sell, upsell, and other opportunities worked, and how what is the effect of this campaign. Isn't it fun? There's so much. And of course, there is always approval. You have companies' branding is important, companies' image is important, and also what worked here, is it local or global, Asia Pacific or Europe or whatnot? Where are we doing this? So that is super important to know as a project manager. The reason is, as a project manager, just pay attention to understand the context. That's all I'm saying. So that means now you'll start thinking, oh, then you will be effective. If you know what is being delivered, who are all involved, what are the nuances, that means it's a great learning. And you know what? Every project you will have fun. It's tough. I mean, it's not easy. Every project you love fun. You feel like otherwise you feel like I'm just running a status report to see whether you met. Hey, can you give me the status, please? And then can you see what is next? That's no fun. This is fun. You learn in the project. So my way of doing things, which I tell my team, and when I build the teams, I build PMOs. One of the things I learned from the great leaders, that's what they do. Understand the context. I keep repeating that word. You might have seen like a broken record, right? Okay, let's go to the next one, please. Yeah. So now the fun part, right? Tips for leading projects effectively. Again, it's more like treat this like a summary, and the entire thing that what I'm mentioning to you from my learnings, it's there in this slide. Have a project charter. Understand the business case, the requirements, assumptions, the timeline, and please, who does what? That's very good thing. In the early stage, you need to establish that. That's part of initiating, right, phase. Then, I mean, in the planning phase, there are lots of things, but I'm just giving some key things for you. Plan and collaborate well. This is very important. The developer, when you go and ask for status, should know this guy is asking for a good reason, right? It's not like, tell me when you're done. Its question is, are you blocked? Can I get you some help? Because a lot of, individually there are the different styles of functioning. People have tend to focus on, you give me something, I'll be done. Like a horse with the blind. They don't know anything about outside. So as a project manager, you are at just a step above to look at everything that's happening at a 20,000 foot level, and then see, oh, this is not happening, the handshake is broken, this is not very clearly documented, and such things. Okay. And then of course understand infosec requirements, evaluate the compliance, meeting cadence, agree on how frequently are you going to have a steering committee meeting, a status meeting, not too many meetings, but at least it's like what is it, out of sight, out of mind. So you need to have, this is the project status, it's available here, go and check it, or you send it like the push, this is the project status and this is the milestones met, this is the milestones upcoming, these are all the various dates we are targeting, this is the blocker, and in this blocker this is the help that we need, and this is the progress we made, all in a couple of bullets. You can just simply share in an email or a slide deck, or use a tool. See, that's where the tool comes in effectively. There are lots of tool that is there, where you can just track the tasks, the dependencies, the timeline, who does what, etc. It's leverage the tool. It could be a simple Excel spreadsheet, or it could be a sophisticated tool on the cloud, or it could be the typical Gantt chart that is given by Microsoft project kind of a tool, or there are lots of tools available. Of course, Zoho also, right? They've got the tools. So there are a lot of things that are available in the market. Trello, of course, you have, and I've used very many application tools. Like even Jira has got that. There are a lot of, you need to compare based on your company's objectives and what is the functionality and feature set and stuff, and then use. And some people even use Confluence for that. So no matter which tool you use, the thing is you are there to bring visibility. Please do that. And then the key thing in executing, I'll keep it at a very high level from a time constraint perspective. Please test everything. Dry run, data migration, dry run. If you have some assumptions, validate the assumptions. Go talk to the field. Hey, this is what we are planning to build. If we give this to you, would you be willing to be part of a subject matter expert? You got lots of knowledge in this area. Why don't you just come and help, right? So they'll be very happy to help. People are waiting to ask, because if you are going to solve their problem, definitely they will be very glad to help you, right? And then control and monitoring. This is where again, this is a topic on its own. Planning the rollout considerations. That is where you got to be very careful with rollout and phased rollout, pilot rollout, and whatnot. All right. So again, get everybody informed. If you're going to like I said in the example, if you're going to launch an email campaign to people, and the customer is going to click on it to do, and most often what happens, not everybody will understand it in first place. I cannot generalize it. Some of them, what they do, they choose to call. So do you have the support team enabled, the customer support to handle the calls? If they do not know that such campaign has gone, in the example that I shared, see, that is what is called rollout and the dependency, understand and collaborate. Alrighty, good. So if you so in a nutshell, if you take care of some of these key things and look for failures, so that as you have seen, right, in the model that I've learned from Amazon and all, like, you have an idea, form a team, just go and execute, fail fast, learn, and then put your learnings to improve, refine, and successful. Take risks, and then you come out successful. But pay attention to understand the context, and project manager has to understand the purpose of them being there. All right, so let's go and do the right thing. So that kind of what I wanted to share today, and definitely I'm here to answer a few questions. So Gaurango, could you mind sharing any questions we have from the team, please? Okay. Yeah, so I think, yeah, so I got a few questions here. So hope you can still hear me, right? So how to automate the project management workflow? We can, they wanted to share some tips. So again, the question here is, first of all, automation is very good because it expedites things, and you'll have better tracking visibility. So please evaluate any software that's available and which can help bring the visibility on a task-based approach, a task with the owner, with clear deliverables, with the dependencies, with also estimation, and also can get a roll-up summary and gives a visibility of the multiple projects that you are tracking to the portfolio. So I would say the first thing to automate is we need to be disciplined to have some of the process understood thoroughly, and with a standard best practice within the team who are project managers. That is very important. And also we need support from the C-level executives to support for project. I mean, I've seen in companies where they say, just get it done. I don't know how you do it. That's one approach. Other thing is, you know what, we have to follow a process so that we learn from our mistakes and correct ourselves. So follow a process. Tell me what you need to get that automated. So definitely you can leverage any of the software tools that are available to do that. The main reasons for projects fail is because, again, not understanding the context very well, and also the factor is you always plan for happy path. I would always be a little bit nervous, and I say if everything works well, yeah, that's not the ideal world, right? The ideal world is we expect that to be. So look for failures. Always ask the question, where can it fail? If it fails, what do I do? Always think like that. Be the devil's advocate and then see if it fails. Always have plan B. People say, no, we work with one plan. That's the plan. We execute it. Thank you. You're good. But always keep something in a back pocket and see if it fails, what do you do? If the resilient hardware, it could be have multiple failover. With one fails, you have the second one. The factor is thorough testing to make sure that testing is done, and you learn from that results. And also I would say one key thing between QA scenarios and always take business scenarios too, and then test it and pilot it, learn, go to the field. Next question is, successful project manager quality is understand the sense of purpose. You are collaborative. Like I said in the slide, you just look at the attitude. Keep an open attitude. Mine has to be like a parachute. It works only when it's open. Okay, and then you are in a very you are the core center which connects a lot of people. Great facilitator, communicator, organizer. You can say all of that. Yeah, I will send some recommendations for the book, but I would say at least once, PMBOK is a very good book to learn the various knowledge areas and processes that PMI recommends. And definitely we all learned from this, from PMBOK, right? And of course, you can always look at some agile books and stuff. I'll send my recommendations to the team later so they can share it in an email. Metrics should be used to convince executives to sanction, which is a very interesting question. I like that. Very interesting question. What metric, how do we convince executives to sanction a budget or a project? This one is very important because this is, again, you partner with the marketing team, the sales team, or your supply chain team, and then you work with them. They all have a business case and say this increases my productivity, reduces my cost, and then it reduces the clicks for the customer. It gets us competitive because the same customer which has been a customer for you for so long will go to another company if they know that other company can get the product for the same money or less money, which is highly productive with the greater benefits. So one of the things we all learn in customer value creation is you need to make it easier for the customer to interact with you, and that's all about digital transformation. We can cover a separate topic on that. So I'm very much interested. So the point here is to convince the sponsor. Of course, you can always say, this is the problem we are addressing. By addressing this problem, and this is the benefits across the various 5 things which I mentioned as an example: legal, regulatory, compliance, information security, efficiency, productivity, cost, and then put a matrix and then say this is the true savings for doing this, and employee morale, safety, and making it a better, likable, lovable environment. Yeah, well, again, see, this is the question. How do you compare the PMI model? See, the question is, your company, see, agility is very important for ability to understand what's happening, and your ability to make some refinements, change, tweak, and react to the market fluctuations and what's happening. So, but that does not mean you should not have a process. You should have a framework. And agile is you understood what's happening, you know your capacity, you have an ability to switch gears and react to do this with a high quality product. Okay, and again, the way they implement, like, it's a waterfall methodology, you have agile methodology, you have a hybrid methodology. Every company does different things which suits their process, culture, and their structure and their strategy. So we got to do what works for every individual company based on some analysis. So I would say nothing, or I would put it in a positive sense. If you're self-organized, that's the best thing you need to do. Will help. So again, I would say I'm sharing my learnings. There's one question is about the teaching shared by you. I'm just sharing my knowledge of the learnings here. So it's like everybody will have their own learning. Just pay attention to how your last couple of projects went. What did you learn? Why it didn't go well? Or if there are something that went well, just follow that. All right. And there's another very good question about maintain project stability with the time constraints and maintain quality. Yeah, that's a challenge on its own, because quality is what, even if you take more time, quality do not compromise, because the customer, that's what they expect. If you give 5 features, that features better work. Okay, so there's no point in giving 50 features where I'm using only 20% of the time. If I give you 5 features which I use 80% of the time and I do that well, that's what the customer wants. So if suppose say you planned for some say mid-June, and you have some indications, look for early indicators where the project is not tracking well. So you look for something and then you see that this is not going well. So what do? Find out what is the risk and how you can mitigate the risk, either cut down the scope or increase the resources that can help you to still meet the target. Or worst scenario is just bring everybody to a discussion and say, this is the situation. It looks like we need to spend some more time to get this project delivered. So what do you think in terms of our options? Can we just take a couple of days more, or to just do this right thing? And in fact, most business executives, they understand the situation. Nobody's wanted to put some product in the market and then say, yeah, just go for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, this is a very interesting question from somebody. How do you some of the best practices to use to organize multiple projects and stay up to date? Yeah, the question here is just to assign. A person can have, for example, 3 to 4 projects. If a person has got 10 projects, it's going to be difficult. Just form a team. I'm not saying you need to have 40 project managers, but again, in this economy and stuff, you need to make sure you get your homework done and get these data, spend some time, do some good planning. By proper planning, good support from the executive management, good understanding with the project team and collaboration, you will be able to manage this. Portfolio management is an art. It's not an easy thing. You need support from everybody. And that's one of the big challenge. We all learn from every project. And one project is not the same like the other. There always some variable that is being caused here. Okay. Again, the PMI, there's one question about Zoho. Again, as you have seen, I've not attested any product here. I'm just sharing what are the things that are out there. So my question here is, use the PMI model to get to know what you need to focus on, like, procurement management, your resource management, risk management, the quality, the integration management, right? Cost, time, cost, schedule, right? So all of these, you just to go through the knowledge areas that is recommended, like about 10 of them there, and then understand the processes to get what is the structure that looks like and what we need to do, and the applicability of each of them in your current projects. And so please do your homework there. That's what I would suggest. And there's another question. It's an interesting question too. How do you plan taking into account uncertainty? See, uncertainty is always there, right? Nothing is certain, especially situations like this. A lot of projects are stalled now in this COVID situation, isn't it? So what do? You need to evaluate when you're going to resume this project. Is it still valid? First of all, in the current situation, right? And that's one scenario. The other thing is, you're doing a project and suddenly the business objective change. The business is going in a different direction. See, ultimately, all the projects that you do is to satisfy the business need. To the executive, they know exactly where the company is moving, in which direction they are moving. Due to the market demand, the feedback that market survey, the feedback that got from the market, the companies tend to decide, you know what, maybe we need to refocus our attention, readjust the scope, like that. There are always things like that happen. So stay closer. That's why the communication is important. The status report is important. The one thing which I often seen people saying, I don't know what's happening in the project. Do you guys know? I don't want to be in that situation. I always say I over communicate. This is the project. This is what it is, and these are the challenges. This is we are on target. We are not on target, but unless you take care of these things, always have a proactive communication. All right. I mean, you can't provide a remedial solution just in this call right now, right? Every scenario is different. You got to understand that as well. But it's a good question. Risk analysis, perform 6 months project. Yeah, I mean, there's no time bound. I would say, if as a project manager, you need to have the risk matrix, list all the risks, their severity, and evaluate it every couple of weeks to see, is that risk still there, or is it transferred? Is it mitigated, or something which we cannot? Sometimes we always present the risk to the executives and say, this is what is the risk we identified, here's the mitigation plan we do, and here is what. Sometimes the business executives, they say, I take this risk, I assume the risk, because they also evaluate. They are responsible for the board at the end of the day, right? So the board is looking for a huge project, multi-million-dollar projects, right? They have to respond to the board, and what's happening to the project, the migration project, or it's a new product that you're launching. What is the risk of not meeting the milestone, or what is the risk that if the customer behavior change, what if the regulatory things change? So they always have to report. So you should know, even if a slightest doubt, just ask. All right. Yeah, this is a very good question. How to check information security aspects in planning phase itself, as many things come as during execution of project. See, information security is very important at every stage of the project, I would say. So understand what is the information security goals. Work with your security team and within the organization, and understand what is their goal, what is their policy and procedure. Get them engaged early enough into the project and give them a glimpse of what you're doing. Then they will put their minds to see, how is it, what website we are launching new, what kind of testing needs to be done, what data is being collected, and what are we doing with the data, what is the archival strategy, and whatnot. And we have to cover it in a separate topic on this, okay? But definitely engage them early, okay? But it's a very good question. How much of contribution, culture of the division of the company? Yeah. So you're right. Culture matters. See, again, if you are so geographically distributed, you need to have a important aspect about what works communication wise, what works security wise, what works their process wise, and also vendors, customers. Vendors are integral partners for you. If the vendor does not follow a process and thorough documentation and stuff like that, if you are dependent on the vendor, the project will fail. So you got to make sure the culture is not just within the organization, within the IT, within the business. It's also with your external party like customer and other folks. So you got to be careful. That's called engagement model. That's called who does what. Go back to the basics. So all we are covering in this is go back to the basics. Never ignore. It's just okay. This is the timeline. I'm just going to hit it. There's no magic. So everybody has to have a clear expectations. You know what? The vendor has got their own release planning. Do you know that? You will base every assumption of this based on, okay, vendor is going to give this in time. What if the vendor does not deliver on time? So that's where contract management comes in. You write it in a contract that you are supposed to, you are obligated to do this. If you don't do this, it's heavy, you're penalized for this. So people write contracts to talk to vendors. So that itself is the procurement management team. So engage the right team to talk to them on their behalf, right? Do you have some more minutes? And because I have a few more questions here, I can handle a couple of minutes more. I just wanted to share again my knowledge and experience. Yes, what best practice need to follow if project budget exceeds to completion budget? Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. See, again, I wish I have a magic wand to answer that question. Best practice is if project budget needs to completion. Completion of the project. See, again, this is one area where people need a good support from a tool to track the cost allocation of the project to get ahead. So this is one thing. Again, start with any tool that you got, or do some analysis for a better tool to help the budget allocation and see how much capacity it is going to take. What does it take to do this project? Because it's procurement of hardware, software, licensing, and things like that. The development cost, then the operational cost. People often forget, right? And the support they also forget. Then the supply chain cost they forget. So it depends on project to project. So first of all, get some kind of a ballpark estimate. And this is one area where people are still improving. I don't think they've mastered that. There's always cost overrun. But I would say here's the best thing to do. Just get some ballpark estimate and validate your assumption, learn from it, so that next time when you estimate, estimation technique, again, you can be better at that. And it's always fun to, at least when nobody asks for it, you better do that. That way it's good for your own edification. All right. Let me just go through some of the questions. I see if I have not missed anything. Thanks for asking these questions, dear listeners. I hope my answers are okay enough to, I've answered your question. I'm still trying. Okay. So ultimately, process matters. And also one thing you have to see is like, have a clear understanding with the stakeholder. On always check with them. Is that meeting your needs? Do you want any different way of doing things? Also work with the matrix organization. If somebody is reporting into you from another department, that's another challenge. My manager gave me a new job. I can't focus on this project anymore. You will find such surprises. So you got to be, these are all your dependencies. Again, as a project manager, it is your responsibility to make sure your assumptions are validated and your dependencies are always, you can depend on them. It's kind of funny to say, right? You depend on your dependencies and make sure you bring some predictability. Yeah. So Yeah, okay, I think fairly we covered, and thanks for asking some questions. Last one, are there any best practices you can provide to help get, yeah, deliverables needed from a client? I'm just thinking, see, that's again, it's an understanding, right? Who needs to do what? Start with that, and then say for what you need for a project. There's always a relay race, right? It's a handoff from one point to the other point. So you got to work with them and see, set expectations. I expect you to deliver this. For example, if a vendor you're doing a, let me go to some technically here. If you're depending on a vendor where you give some request and the vendor is giving a response in an API signature for a technical project. So in that case, the vendor needs to be recipient, be available to receive your request and provide a response. And the question here is, what if you are not able to connect to the vendor? What if the vendor is not connect to you? How do you get your acknowledgement working? Look at an example like a middleware technical aspects of this project. So that needs to be thoroughly tested, but that needs to be thoroughly vetted out. All the requests, they should be in a position to receive, and they need to, their software tools and stuff needs to be prepared for that. So that's all the expectations, which is again, work with your engineering team. And again, one thing I wanted to say this, whatever we heard, oh, it sounds like we have to do everything. Not necessarily. Just be aware, be open, understand what's happening. Then you will be able to help people. At the end of the day, your goal as project manager, or our goal as project manager, or PMO, program manager, whatnot, is you're facilitators. You are remover of impediments. You are there to just make life easier for them. And then it's like a question of, doesn't matter who gets the credit. We are a team. Have a team approach. So for the success of the project, together we succeed. Okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah, the blind spots project managers need to be careful about. Yeah, actually that's very true. Blind spots is just talking to have a one-on-one. And outside of just asking for status with your project team, just ask them, hey, how is it going? Is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything, what would make it easier for you to do what you're doing? And is there any way I can help? Ask, like that open conversation will really help. And again, assumptions. One thing, if I can say, don't assume. Even if you assume something, because we all make assumptions, validate your assumptions. Yeah, this is a very good question. For startups, one person will be handling multiple projects. Any suggestion which thing we need to focus on in project phases? Well, see, multiple projects again, that's a little bit like juggling too many balls in the air, right? So you got to make sure, go by the priority, go by the deadline and things like that. Every project, there's no big or small. We need to succeed in those projects. So I would suggest is dedicate your time to each project and focus on that project. And just to see that, don't just do, okay, this project, I take care of this and then I go to the next project. Just have some focused time. Have some core team discussions with the project and say, guys, we have a deliverable. Thank you for partnering with us. What are the challenges, blockers that we need to focus on? How do I unblock you? It's like your agile, daily stand-up stuff, right? Are you blocked? Hey, who can help here? Right? Do we need help from the executives? Do we need help from within? Or there is always somebody who has done this before, right? And I would even say, I tell my team all the time, project managers can help other project managers too, and then get some help and say, there's always somebody who has done that. And one thing I would say, use a tool or tools, standardize so that all the project managers use that, and also set expectations with on how the reporting needs to work between the project team so that everybody follows that. So I'll say tools will be one of the very good aspects of bringing some standardizations at the end of the day. All right. Okay. Thank you, guys. I guess I've tried to answer most of the questions to my knowledge. All right. Again, I wanted to throw a disclaimer there once again. These are from my experience and doesn't bind any of my employers, current or past, and just sharing what I learned from leaders and from other books, and I'll share the other books and the stuff through Zoho team. Gauranga and Pratik, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivasa. Your talk was very enlightening. Thank you, dear participants. For more updates about our future webinars, please do follow us on Twitter at Zoho Project and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stay safe.